Thank you so much, and welcome everyone, and thanks for staying for the chalk post the bottle of wine. Actually, I went to university with Oliver, so this is fantastic, and maybe a bit of a segue that they're using 3D seismic to find nickel. I think that's just fantastic coming from oil and gas, so kudos to them. And with data redundancy exercises in 3D and what you can pull out of it, I think it'll be a fantastic opportunity, so well done to them. So it segues a little bit to what I'm going to talk about today: mining, water, and oil and gas. It all comes together. It's exploring for hydrogen. It'll be absolutely novel, be different. We are different, and we've got global attention for that reason. I think I said yesterday in the panel that nature makes minerals, it makes fossil fuels, coal, oil and gas. It provides heat, but it also makes hydrogen under our feet every day in certain geographies around the world, and HyTerra is getting after it. So today I'm going to really concentrate on a couple of things. One, why hydrogen? Why is it a wonder element? I think it's a bit of an educational thing to a certain extent. And then second, where's HyTerra today? And then third, very simply, where we're going to be heading potentially in the future. Disclaimer, of course, and this has obviously been released on the ASX this morning. So effectively, I'm not going to go through these bullet points with you today. I'm actually going to let you know that I will take you through this sequentially to get you to a point with so what you can see in terms of where this industry potentially is heading and who are the players and how we are playing in that. So hydrogen, wow, it really packs a punch, right? It is a pure reactive chemical energy we use it to make materials, we use it to make our food, we use it in fuels. It is something that is used today. It's just not really widely talked about. So it is a bit of a wonder element. Another thing is you can't electrify everything. So maybe 20% of the energy that we use in this room today collectively, 20% of it is electrified. The rest is molecules. The rest of it is molecules. And where do those molecules come from? Oil and gas, right? So molecules are here to stay. So what are we getting after? Cleaning up industry, helping with pollution, and maybe reducing that alliance through mining companies that you're invested in, and will be getting more attention around in the near future, especially with some potential price volatility that will come with diesel in the incoming future, I suspect. So where's it come from, right? So I'm going to give you a very basic cartoon form and explain, and I've explained this, and thanks so much for coming up to the booth to ask a similar question, so bear with me for a second. On the left-hand side, you'll see the Rocky Mountains. Ice, water, melts, gets into these very well-known aquifers, and it goes all the way out, way off the screen to the Mississippi River. So there is a working hydraulic system here, where water is coming down and moving out aquifers further out into the Mississippi, and that drains out into the Gulf of Mexico, as we all know. On its way through, it passes through Colorado, Kansas, and many other states. We're in Kansas, to start off with. In Colorado, it picks up a bit of helium, potentially, right? And you know there's some helium companies sitting in Colorado, and it moves along, and it finally hits this little red thing sitting over there called the Mid-Continental Rift. Very well studied thing, very well known. America tried to split a billion years ago, and it failed. It's a failed rift. What that means, it encourages rich ultramafics and mafic rocks to come up to the surface, and a billion years ago, so what's happened since a billion years? Carbonate, sands coming up, and traps. So just above this mid-rift, continental rift, there are oil and gas trapping styles, right, which I'm very much akin to and used to. So what's happening? That water is the source, right? And H2O is a very, very expensive bond to break at surface. We hear all the chatter about it, right? We have to electrocute water to get it out. But the Earth is doing it. When it hits that iron-rich rock, it wants to rust. So it's breaking that bond, taking the O from the H2O, releases the H2. The H2 wants to go up. It's super buoyant, wants to go to space every day of its life. But it gets trapped potentially in this area. And that's what we're going after. And people have drilled in this area looking for oil and gas. And what did they find instead? Historical occurrences of hydrogen, nitrogen, which is the equation for ammonia. Helium comes to the right, as I kind of mentioned. No methane, no CO2. It's all negligible. So what is really important about this? There's a couple of different attributes. On the left-hand side is kind of the words on how. The colours are about how you make it today. Soon they'll kind of probably disappear, I think. This is my personal view. It'll be more about what is the carbon intensity? that you're getting as a customer. That will be the conversation. So on the left-hand side, you've got grey, that's fossil fuels. Hydrogen, that's 99% of today, comes from that. You've got blue, which is taking the fossil fuel and then taking the CO2 out of that and putting it in the ground, right? And you call it carbon sequestration. You've got green, which is electrocuting the water at surface, that's man-made. And that is a fantastic way of doing it. I think it's great, and it will be here to stay, and it's very incentivized to get going. But now there's white, right? That's the geological hydrogen, that's nature's hydrogen. And you can see here, we've got the same carbon emissions potentially as green, and we'll beat grey, and we'll beat blue. So from a carbon perspective, we're competitive. On the right-hand side is another attribute. It's about carbon, but it's about cost. Lowest cost producer wins every day, right? In any industry, especially in oil and gas, right? So you want to start lowest on the cost to supply curve, right? That's what you want to be, and that's what we're getting after. So we want to compete against fossil fuel-derived hydrogen, but we'll beat them on carbon, right? If this works. And that is the incentive to get after it. So HyTerra, so that's hydrogen. Now the second part, HyTerra. HyTerra is listed on the ASX and it is the only one you get access to this jurisdiction in the US today. We are exploring for this type of hydrogen and helium resources right in the heart of industrial hubs, not in the middle of nowhere, right in the heart of industrial hubs. All around us, at least 25% of America's ammonia is produced there. Our leases are sitting currently in Kansas, and we have about approximately 52,000 leases already. We've been going for a massive leasing campaign pre-drill. There are at least 10 occurrences people have gone to explore for oil and gas, as they should, as they move up from Oklahoma and Kansas and stuff. And you do find oil and gas in Kansas and stuff. But in this area, for the reason I explained before, they found hydrogen, nitrogen, and a bit of helium. Off-takers, potential off-takers, I don't have to explain that too much. It's not a big stretch, really, to think about that. There's a lot going on around us. This is plastics, this is chemicals, petrorefineries, ethanol plants, this is ammonia, nitrogen, methanol. So, and it's all connected by existing transportation. We don't put roadmaps on that map because you wouldn't see the map, right? There's so much interconnected highways there. There's Wichita, Omaha, Oklahoma City, Kansas City. We're kind of in the middle of that, if you get the point. One important thing as well, subject to a shareholder vote at the back end of this year, is Fortescue will invest up to 22 million Australian dollars into HyTerra at the topco level to acquire 40% of us. The funds are quite significant for where we are. It's a relatively, other parts of the world, a cheap place, a great jurisdiction to explore and drill, expand our program. But basically, they're going to fully fund our exploration program in 2025 in Kansas. The second thing they're going to do is we're going to form a strategic alliance with Fortescue and FFI in particular to build technical committees around handling these projects efficiently. There's so many synergies between HyTerra and Fortescue. And second, we will go mutually explore new opportunities wherever they turn up. And if it's warranted, we'll invest together in them. So currently, we had a 2-well drilling campaign. Their previous investors were investing for a 2-well drilling campaign, which would have started already in September. We've delayed that program because of this. But what happens is we're tripling now our exploration from 2 wells to 6 wells, and we'll get after it post-EGM when it's practically possible. So our leasing, I mentioned that before, and this is a public map. One of the cool things about where we are, cool, that's a great professional word, play diversity, right? So what you want is not one well and what do you do next? What you want is several locations that you deem are priority areas that you have leased up, that you will put wells into them, and they will open your eyes and tell you where to flow from, where to commercially develop, and where to go next, right? That's what you want to do. And that is the luxury that we have in the plays and the leases that we've been acquiring for the last couple of years. We will continue to do them. There'll be infill. You want contiguous leases. You drill a well and smack bang, you want to make sure you've got a great position around them, and that's what we're building. This is a cross-section. So that was a map. This is a cross-section through that map. Trust me, it's that map. And what you see on this is in red historical wells, right? The wells I mentioned 5 minutes ago on ones that people went to explore for oil and gas. And you can see they're a little bit short, right? Because they went through their typical reservoirs. These reservoirs are producing reservoirs in other parts for oil and gas. This is very known geology. This is not brand new. This is not special in terms of the reservoirs that will pop up here. But they stopped drilling because they didn't find oil and gas. They find hydrogen, helium, and nitrogen. And I think at the point in time, I don't think that was that important at the time. Right? So what would we do? We have opportunities to drill right next door. Twinning, drill next door, drill a mile away, whatever. Drill next to these things, and we're going to go deeper, right? Because they didn't go deep enough, we think, right? So there's stuff here that they found, potentially. Let's go prove that up. There's stuff underneath. There's probably stuff even underneath that, right? And what you see here is a range from shallow to deeper targets. Shallow because it goes up. What is that red, brown, reddy thing? That is that mid-continental rift, that billionaire split that failed. And when the water hits that reaction, serpentinization, I remember for Curtin University, now I have to think about that. I didn't have to worry about that for 25 years, but now I do. Rusting, I call it, because I can't spell it. And it's going to go up. So we will be drilling in the shallow. We'll be drilling next to existing historical occurrences, and we'll be drilling greenfield into the, well, close as we can to the source. But there's your range. That's what we call play diversity. Here are the wells in more detail. Here's a couple examples that we can drill. Pseudo-roach. Now, we have a bunch of wells, a bunch of targets we can drill. So we're going to choose what we're going to drill. These could be some. So here's two. Pseudo-roach 2, drilled in 2009, not 1910, 2009, right? And what did it find? High values of hydrogen, but also high values of helium, right? And 3% helium, from my understanding in the States, is in the money, right? So that's fantastic. Second to that, there's another one, Scott 1 well, that was drilled in 1982. So yeah, that's, I don't know, 40 years, getting along here. 82 didn't feel that long ago, but now it feels like decades. So that's about 40 years ago. That found up to 56% hydrogen sitting in it. And it's interesting, people have gone back to that well. There are PhDs, there are papers you can read yourself on these wells. They've gone back in and resampled them, and they find hydrogen, right? Again and again and again, right? So something's going on. We're going to go find out. The value chain, really quickly, hydrogen and helium, right? Well, actually, I think I've said it 100 times. Hydrogen, nitrogen, helium. Where would it go? Well, that's the equation for ammonia. You don't have to make it. You don't have to extract nitrogen from the air or hydrogen from a coal-fired petrochemical facility or something. And then it goes into green fertilizer. And we're sitting in a fantastic area full of fantastic people. And we can help those economies and help those communities, right? And you've got helium. Helium can be trucked to gate. Goes through a different place. Kansas is where helium started in the US. There's a plant up the road. It's not just us. The US government has spent some quality time earlier this year in a bipartisan congressional hearing to talk about, guess what, white hydrogen, right? And who turned up? Our peer, Coloma, Department of Energy, and United States Geological Survey, right? And what did they talk about? They talked about the impact of what this could have beyond the US, right? Energy security, So it's a thing. So our work program, very briefly, it used to be continue leasing, of course you lease every day. Get some geophysics, drills 2 wells. Oh, we got a Nebraska thing as well, take a venture decision on that when we get the technical data, and keep screening new opportunities, right? Now, subject to an AGM, Fortescue, what's different? Subject to an EGM, on a shareholder vote on that subscription agreement, a fully funded work program. Significant increase in leasing, that we already have actually increased a lot already. We're going to expand our geophysics. We're going to triple our drilling, venture decision and all the rest, and now, but joint screening, if we want to, on growth opportunities globally. The board and management, very briefly, has done this before: exploration, appraisal, development, production, and we've got a great range from very, very talented, I think, oil and gas folks in this. Have a look at us on your own time, plus the ex-chief scientist of Shell is helping us out. Ex-chief scientist of Shell is helping us out, right? So there's some big brains around us here as well. So in the end, what are we doing? We're exploring for natural hydrogen or white hydrogen and helium under the ground in the US. US is a fantastic place to do it. It's fast. We're going to get after it. We may be fully funded shortly to do it. We're going to ramp up news flow based on these learnings into 2025. It's going to be a massive year for us as we keep going on our exploration programs, and you've got the leadership in place to do it. Thank you very much for listening.